Syngenta Canada and C&M Seeds present the Wheat School on RealAgriculture.com.
So it's excellent. The cereal performance trials are up and available. You can tell it's still November 30th because I haven't quite lost the mow for Movember. There's some really exciting data. It's the key piece of information for growers is which is the right variety to grow. That's what the performance trials tell us. The beauty of it now is that we not only have yield information, but we still have all that great disease information for wheat. It's really critical for the fusarium information, but we also now have straw yield information, which is kind of new and exciting because a lot of growers tell me one of the main reasons they actually grow spring cereals at all is because of the value of the straw. And of course, winter wheat performance trials have been up for quite some time. The Cereal Crop the Cereal Crop Committee is the committee that does all these trials, and we are doing our utmost to try and get this information out on a more timely and quicker basis. We actually had some of the winter wheat performance trials up this year the first week of August. That's unheard of, and so hopefully as we move that faster and faster, you're going to find this information to be even more valuable. So let's have a look at the information that's there. So we're here at the Go Cereals homepage, and of course www.gocereals.ca is the way to get there, quite simple. You can see a number of different options here. We have some excellent tools on this particular page. We have head-to-head comparisons, so if you want to find out how your standard variety is doing against some new variety, or a salesman comes in with something that's really good, you can go here and pull up that head-to-head comparison. That's kind of a cool tool. Lots of other stuff here as well, but what we're really after today is the spring cereal performance trials. That's what's new. You can see it says new here, so we're going to go right here and open that up. And here we are at where the rubber hits the road. This is the spring wheat performance trial information. You can see how it's lined up or set up. We have the 5-year, 4-year, 3-year, 2-year, and this year's data in particular. We have the different areas. And so if you're not familiar with the areas, of course, you can go on the home page to the variety trials page, and that will bring up the area map, which is right here, of course. You can see Area 2-4, so that's essentially all of southwestern and central Ontario. Area 3 is primarily the Ottawa Valley, and then Area 5-6 is the rest of Ontario from that perspective. Okay, back here at the performance trial page, and Sable has been a real standard variety, so oftentimes what I like to do is look at the common varieties that are out here, Sable being the most predominant, and we would say in Area 2, how's it doing? Well, on long-term data, it's been the best, 109 or right up there with the best, and we kind of look at how that's held up through the years, and you can see at a 105 it's still doing reasonably well. When we look at something like Sable across the 3 areas, that's the other thing that I really like to do is look at it across the different geographies, because that really gives you a sense of how yield stable it is. And I will say that in spring cereals, for whatever reason, these 3 areas are quite distinctly different. And a variety can do very well in one area and bomb in another area, and that's just the way that works out. But if it does well in all 3 areas, it gives you a good sense that it's really yield stable. So that's just one of those things that I think you can look at. Not that I wouldn't grow Sable in Area 1 because Area 2 because it's obviously a good variety there, but by the time as I go across here, yeah, it's just kind of an also-ran. It's around 100 index in Area 3. Maybe we could find one that was a little bit more yield stable if we got that lucky. So let's move down and look at some of the newer varieties. Of course, the newer varieties tend to always be at the bottom of the list because we put the varieties with most data up at the top, and also the order in which they've been entered into the trials. So we get down here and we start looking at varieties like Wilkin. Now have a look at that. That is pretty nice, 113 on 4-year data. Wilkin actually had a very poor year this year in Area 2 because it's only a 103, which means when it has a very poor year, it was still running 3% above the average of the trial, and on long-term data it's 13% above. Really, really exciting, but you can see that it probably isn't quite as yield stable. It's just average in Area 2 and average in Area 3, so average is okay, but really outstanding in Area 2-4. we move on down and have a look at some of the other things that would kind of be outstanding in this particular region or in the spring wheat area. Here we have Magog in area 5, and you also look up here at Turan is another variety in area 5 and area 6 that really has done very well over the last 5 years. So that's how you use that data. You're always kind of trying to look at which ones are doing much better than average, and the real way to take that information then and use it on your farm is not to say, oh well gosh, I'm in New Liskeard, so I take Turan and I say it's a 106 or whatever, and I'm going to just go out there and grow all my acres in that particular variety. Well, that's a bad choice because you've never tried it on your farm before. If you're normally growing whatever variety, you should do a test plot, and you pick your winners out of here and put them in the test plot. If they do well in the test plot, then I start thinking you move significant acres into those varieties. So that's not all that's here in these tables, and we'll move on down, and now we get into the different varietal characteristics, and it's done by area. So this is area 2, and it really is quite intriguing because the different areas have different pressures in terms of the diseases and the lodging potential. So you really do have to kind of look at this, and there's some cool things that jump out. I mentioned Wilkin in area 2. Area 2-4, and as you go across with Wilkin on area 2-4, you can see that it's an S for fusarium. Certainly the rating schedule here, moderately susceptible, highly susceptible. We really don't like seeing a highly susceptible there. So Sable, even though it's been our standard variety, we really do know now that Sable's one of those varieties that can get significant fusarium, have big issues with quality, so we'd like to move away from Sable, and we'd really like to get to a moderately resistant. We do have just one on the list this year, Carberry. We keep moving the bar on that, and if Carberry would only have a Wilkin yield and be a moderately resistant, that would be an excellent thing, but Wilkin is okay at a susceptible rating. It's not terrible, it's not the greatest, but it's certainly something that you can consider growing. The other cool thing about this is the protein level. And what's been really intriguing in terms of spring wheat in the province is it used to be a given that we would make protein in spring wheat. It's no longer a given because we've raised the bar so much on spring wheat yields. In fact, a record yield on spring wheat yield in Ontario this year at 59.4 bushels per acre across the province. What that means is that there's growers out there that actually had fields that averaged over 100 bushels per acre. The highest yield I've heard that was confirmed was at 103 bushels per acre. When you get that high of a yield, well, we really need more nitrogen to get that yield up there. You can see here, if I grow Wilkin, which in area 2-4 is the variety with the most yield potential, all of a sudden my protein drops. And in order to keep that protein up, I'm going to have to push more nitrogen on that crop and make sure that I can achieve the protein to get the protein premiums. Of course, then as we move across, we say we're going to push the nitrogen rate up. Well, then lodging immediately becomes an issue, and lodging data here, and you can start to get a sense that with Wilkin, you can push protein higher with more nitrogen, and because it's really not showing much lodging potential at all, it gives you that level of comfort that you can push the nitrogen rate and not have to scrape it off the ground with the header set on float like you were combining soybeans. You can go through and do the exact same thing with the other areas. So this is the area 3 data with the agronomic characteristics, and then of course the area 5-6 data here as well with the agronomic characteristics.